Have you had your morning coffee yet? Well, join the cause. Drink more coffee. Head on over to patriotsarisecoffee.com. Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us on Upfront in the Prophetic. We're so blessed that you are here. Wow, do I have a broadcast for you today? Oh my gosh, it's going to blow you away. But you know what? It's also going to, I believe, give you a lot of hope. You know, back in the day in 1787, there was a woman, Elizabeth Howell. She posed a question to Benjamin Franklin. That's right. And this is the question. She said, well, doctor, what have we got? A republic or a monarchy? And his response was, what? A republic if you can keep it. Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to talk about a republic today. With us today on Upfront in the Prophetic is retired U.S. Air Force, woohoo, Lieutenant Colonel Sandy Miarecki. And I hope I said that right. She's a PhD as well. And our discussion today is going to be about the Republic because there's so many people that I've had these questions. We get questions posed to us all the time. And it's like, are we in a new republic? Is this a restored republic that we're working towards? Well, we got the perfect woman of God on the show with us today that is going to unpack this. Just so much to learn and grab a hold of. But not only got that, guys, I want you to get engaged. Okay. It's time to step in because the time is short. So I'll tell you, let's get her on the line with us right now on the air, I should say. Dr. Sandy, should I continue to call her Dr. Sandy or just Sandy? Whatever you
Andy,
prefer.
please.
Okay. Well, what an honor it is having you on the show today. You
Thank you.
have
The honor is mine to be here. I really appreciate the invitation.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you so much. You know, we heard you on SG and on. He's a dear friend of ours. And my husband, who couldn't be with us today, was like, oh my gosh, you've got to have her on the air. Do whatever you can. So I'm calling SG, calling Lori. All right, guys, come on, you know, and so they were wonderful to share your information with me. So thank you. Um, you know, your background is extensive, and I would love for you to share a snapshot of that and then how you became aware of the Republic.
Sure. So I'm originally from Chicago, which I used to be proud of. I'm not anymore. It's pretty much a dirt pile. We won't go over there. But anyway, I went to the University of Illinois for my bachelor's degree and studied astronomy, physics, and mathematics. That was my major. That, in addition to being an Air Force ROTC, because ever since I was a little kid, my dream was to be an astronaut in NASA. Of course, I wanted to live on the moon and do research on the moon, but that wasn't happening yet. You know, what happened? Well, now we know NASA's all fake, but let's not go there. That's a different podcast.
Right.
So, but that's what got me into the Air Force. And literally, it was like, well, I guess I could be a pilot. Never flown in a plane before, but I like roller coasters. I think it'll be okay. And that's how it started. So, became a pilot, then found out what was actually required to make a resume in order to be an astronaut candidate. Found out that an instructor pilot was pretty much the next step. Well, I was already doing that. After pilot training, they realized that I had natural teaching skills. And even though I'd never really flown before I went into the Air Force, they made me an instructor pilot.
Wow.
So we did that and ended up, becoming an instructor pilot in the next aircraft, cargo aircraft. And then the last thing you need to do is become a test pilot. So I applied and was accepted, and I became the fifth, I think, woman pilot to go through the program at Edwards Air Force Base. Didn't know that at the time, which is always good. You don't want to ever know you're one of the first ones, right? Just do your job and don't think
Right.
about it. And
Right.
so I was in many different aircraft. Sometime in the 90s, I was, and this is tracing my history back now, I was injured by a vaccine. Don't know which one. And I'm going to put vaccine in quotes because we know that these are all poison. None of them have ever been properly safety tested. A whole other podcast that we could go into if you would like. But I would actually recommend some of the more experts. I'm just repeating what the experts would say. So got my application into NASA, went through the whole 1 week course, and I had some medical issues.
Oh.
So that was the end of the NASA astronaut project. 30 years, but that's about how long it takes to go through and do that. So got as close as I could, decided, I'm really having fun in the Air Force. Let's just stay. And so I did, but my health was continuing to deteriorate to the point where I barely made it to 20 years and retirement. So did that, realized, well, what do I want to be when I grow up now? And I decided that I really love teaching. And I think that I would be a pretty good physics teacher. So started looking around, realized, oh, Air Force Academy. What if I was a professor of physics at the Air Force Academy? I like that idea. So it all kind of like gel. And I got accepted to Berkeley, finished my PhD in particle physics at Berkeley in my 50s. Not recommended. And so then I got hired right away. And so I was teaching physics happily at the academy. Loved the job. The kids loved me. It was just a wonderful experience. Then COVID came. And I saw someone flipped a switch that had the name Marxism on it. So all these leaders, supposedly, that are, military oaths of office and everything, I just watched them violate everything that we hold dear in this country.
Right.
So I started to point that out, because when you are a former officer, you never give up your oath. It is oath for life. So oath to the Constitution and to everything else we hold dear. And I said, you guys are breaking the law. You're doing it right here. Here's the law. Here's what you're doing. Silence. I kind of figured that. Well, okay, now they start coming after the kids and everybody, the active duty, for this mandate for getting the shots. This was August of 2021. And I said, you have no authority to do that. You can't take away constitutional rights. You can't claim an emergency. There's nothing here. And on top of that, there's never been an approved set of COVID shots. They can say FDA approval all they want, but when you read the actual paperwork, it never happened. And that's just reading English. You don't need to be an FDA expert or virology or anything. You just read and you can see it says it's not approved. So everyone took an experimental shot voluntarily, apparently. Well, coercively, right? Because we were all, get the shot or you're going to get fired.
Right. Or you lose all your benefits. And if you're an officer or enlisted,
There are people kicked out at the 19.5 year point for a 20-year career.
wow.
Yeah, we'll fix that. Don't worry.
Amen.
So so the kids start coming to me and they say, ma'am, we don't want to take these shots. We just know something's wrong. Yeah. I'm like, got really good instincts. Here's what I know. So they're asking me. They said, what can I do? I don't want to take the shots. I said, well, what are they saying? Get the shot or get out and pay back all your tuition. Well, there's a few things missing there, like due process under the law. And so I said, well, here's what the regulations in the Air Force and the Department of Defense say. If you have a religious complaint or, exemption, then you can apply for that. Here's the regulation. Would you help me? Well, of course I will help you. So, and I draw up a little draft and I say, this is kind of like a standard letter. It's got like the stuff in it that it says the regulation, should put in there. And you submit that to your supervisor and then they send it on up the chain and eventually you get an answer, yes or no. And you're protected while you're in that letter status. Oh, that sounds great. So that's what they did. Many of them. Well, they were so excited because they had no idea anyone even in the world was doing this for anyone. Well, I had already been helping people off base. So when it happened on base, I was ready to go. So they tell two friends and they tell two friends. And I have no idea how many times it's been passed on, but I am getting emails, phone calls from all the service academies, active duty, civilians, contractors, medical people, worldwide, Germany, Japan, Korea, stationed, and so I had hobbies. not then. So
Nice.
all I'm doing at night now is just answering these emails, preparing for my lesson, get that finished because that's my job. And then the whole rest of the time, sending out this information to people and just what I just said. Here's the regulation, here's the process, here's a sample letter, adapt it to whatever you like, and then hand it into your supervisor. And I'll be happy to proofread it or whatever. So then I'm told I can't do that.
What?
I can't help the students with their rights under the law.
Mm.
Now, that's not the way they said it, but that's how you interpret it. So I knew I didn't have to listen to that illegal order. Then they start coming after me for, okay, now it's civilians have to get the shots. And I went, you have zero authority to tell me to do anything like that whatsoever. You might, maybe in a gray zone, have some authority to tell the military, but I refuse. Not only that, but because you've now given me an illegal order, I am now going to report you to the Inspector General. I didn't say that, but that's exactly what I did. They didn't like that.
Mm.
So now it's early 2022, and I'm relieved of duty for not following the rules. So I have time now to do my Inspector General paperwork. So I submit that in January. The investigation starts sometime in March, April. And they stopped attacking me for a little while, attacking in a verbal sense, right? And so then now the summer rolls around, and they know that they can't get rid of me, but they must get rid of me because I know too much.
Right.
So now they switch to lying. Sandy said she wants to bring her gun on campus. Sandy said she's building a bunker in Texas. Sandy said she wants to kill Democrats.
Oh my word. That's
And
defamation of character.
people who know me are just like,
What?
why would I ever even, anyway, you get the basic picture. But
Exactly.
then that's what they put into the paperwork to fire me: conduct unbecoming a civilian employee, and failure to follow an order, which was to stop helping the students with their religious exemptions.
Mm.
So as soon as I was fired, September of 2022, I turned right back around and filed a lawsuit through the Merit
Good.
System Protection Board, special branch of the U.S. District Court, where they do these exact cases, illegal firing, whistleblower retaliation, because I was a whistleblower, because I told them you're breaking the law,
Right.
and that they got rid of me. Plus, I had the Inspector General thing, which is a protected activity. So if they fire me because of the Inspector General, so I got them on like 3 different counts.
Yes.
That process is supposed to last 6 months. 23 months later, we finally got to the court May of this year.
Wow.
And closing arguments were due the end of June in written, because the judge likes written ones, and that's a brilliant idea, by the way. So he doesn't have to take the notes, right? And so we are just waiting. Everything is finished except for the judge's decision. While all this is going on, I'm praying, God, you brought me to the Air Force Academy. I felt that, I felt this perfect timing. There were no jobs open for 4 years before this one job opened right when I was about to finish my PhD. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to apply and see what happens. And then, of course, I get the job. So all these things just lined up perfectly for me to be there during this time. I figured that was a sign.
Yes.
So now I'm going, you put me here. I'm getting fired. What do you want me to do? God, show me the way, And so a random person comes into my life through a friend. And I had been introduced to the Republic in October of 2021, right when they started to come after me for helping the students with the religious exemptions. And I spoke with a gentleman named Jim Carpenter, who is the governor of Colorado in the Republic. And he learned about me through a friend because we were in the same patriot groups. And I had this incredible conversation with this gentleman. I called it, every sentence was a zinger. He was dropping truth bombs on me like you would not believe. And I can type about 120 words a minute, and I was just typing everything he's saying. so that I can put it all together later, because there was no way I was going to remember an hour and a half worth of this. I'm so glad I did that. And then I shared that with all my email contacts and like, this is what I just learned. Unbelievable. And I'll tell you about, what he was telling me and what we know about the Republic. But anyway, because I was still in as a civilian, there's something called the Hatch Act, which kind of forbids federal employees, military, et cetera, from holding any public offices or campaigning or doing anything that would be untoward, right? To make like favoritism or anyways. So I knew that rule and I was applying it very strictly. Excuse me. Let me get a drink.
Sure.
I was on 4.5 hours of podcast yesterday, so I don't think I've
Oh,
fully recovered yet.
sure. I understand.
So, so after that conversation, I, of course, had to do the deep dive research. I'm a scientist, so I have to know what I just heard is true or not. I buy their books, the Re-inhabited books, which I highly recommend to anyone to do a deep dive on the Republic. So Re-inhabited, that's the title. And it's probably the only one out there, but the authors are Hertler, Hertler. And I can give you the links if you want to put them below the podcast or whatever.
Absolutely.
Excuse me. So I'm doing that. I'm reading the website. I'm talking with the folks. I eventually get asked to be outreach coordinator because of my teaching skills and my ability to take a complex subject and just boil it down to what's the most important parts. And so I started doing podcasts and videos and sharing things and all that. And that was going okay, except shadow banning was astronomical. So
Yeah.
this stuff's not getting out. And this is the same thing that's been happening since like 2014 timeframe. I'll explain why in a minute. So that's how I got initially involved. The next question is probably going to be, so tell me about the Republic.
Yes. Absolutely. Because I mean, honestly, Sandy, everyone, I mean, everyone, being if you're Democratic, if you're African American or whatever, I mean, they no longer have confidence in our current
Yeah.
government or even past governments, we'll just say the truth,
Right.
and people are basically saying, you know what, we're going to hell in a handbasket. I mean, so where do we go from here? Where do we
Right.
go from here?
So what I learned in that phone call with Jim Carpenter was, in summary, we had a republic, but we lost it, just like Ben Franklin said. And that essentially happened, and it can be argued, because it was like a process. It started during the Civil War, when the states started to leave the Union, when Lincoln was president, and was probably finished in the Organic Act of 1871 that Congress never passed legally, lawfully. But you can also argue that it wasn't a real Congress by then, because Lincoln had to do some fancy footwork trying to keep what did he say? He kept the Union, but lost the Republic. So he considered the states leaving to be votes, absentee votes, abstained votes. Okay. So you have the yeses and the nos, and then the who abstains, who doesn't vote. And so you've got to have at least 50% yeses to pass any legislation. Well, there was just like about a third maybe of the Congress was, missing because of the states leaving. And so it would be really hard for them to get 50% of the votes if you count these as, actual votes that just didn't get voted. So he did what he's called an executive government. And you can read his executive orders, and it says, according to this executive government, we're all going, that's not in the Constitution. Where did he get this from? Well, that was the start of a corporate structure. And so that's what he had to do in order to save the country while this war was going on. So now the war ends, and he probably had every intention of now changing it back to the Republic. But just like a month after the war ended, he was assassinated by the Jesuits. So then what? Well, his vice president, not a good guy,
Mhm.
keeps this process going. And because he's following orders from his masters, there's nobody really at by this point is anything, independent and thinking good things about the country. So Johnson now is continuing this corporate type structure, punishing the states instead of welcoming them back in. And by 1871, our debt was due for the Civil War.
Mm.
And so the banksters, I don't call them bankers, they're banker gangsters,
That's right.
banksters, said, all right, well, we will like whatever, massage your debt, whatever that's called, refinance or whatever, if you incorporate Washington, D.C.
Mm.
That's what it actually says in the thing, that Washington, D.C. 10 square miles will be incorporated. Like corporation.
Right.
Like that's where our government is.
Mm.
And some people will argue, well, that's not really like a corporation. I'm like, oh, yes, it is. Because all you have to do is go on dunnandbradstreet.com, dnb.com, which is where all the corporations around the world are registered. And you
Yeah.
will find USA Incorporated, White House Incorporated, NASA Incorporated, Pentagon Incorporated, Department of Defense Incorporated,
Wow. All
Supreme Court Incorporated,
crooked entities.
State of Florida Incorporated, State of Colorado Incorporated. Because that federal government said, okay, states, we just incorporated, and I'm just guessing here. It's a really good thing. And you guys need to do the same thing or you're not going to get any money from us.
Right.
So either the states obeyed or they said no. And then these bad guys said, well, we'll just make sure we get our own guy into that position next time and then propose it again. Oh, yeah, it's a great idea. Let's incorporate. States are incorporated. Now, what do? Well, they go, hey, counties. And so
Mm.
the entire country, all the way down to the cities, counties, towns, whatever, are all incorporated, all corporations. In other words, our republic government was hijacked by a non-government corporation
Mm.
system. It took several years, probably into the 80s, 1880s, but they finally did it.
Wow.
And then they had enough pull in the 1913 timeframe to start the Federal Reserve. And
Jekyll Island, right?
for anyone who's interested in that, I would highly recommend a deep dive into G. Edward Griffin's
Mm.
book, The Creature from Jekyll Island.
Yeah.
And you can find a free audiobook online, so you don't have to buy it. In fact, I did that, and then I could listen to it driving, whenever I'm in the car. And it's like 21 hours worth of listening, but well worth it.
That'll
In
blow
fact,
your
I'm even
mind.
considering reading it again, listening to it again. Because there's just so much information in there. When you heard it, you're like, what? You're like, back up 1 minute and you go, what? It's like, seriously, that's how that works. So that's what they did. Anyway, so the absolute, takedown of America was in full swing, but
Mm.
it was boiling the frog speed. And you guys know all that story, right? You throw a frog in boiling water, it jumps out because it can sense the difference. But if you put a frog in regular temperature water and slowly turn up the heat, the frog will cook to death because it doesn't sense a difference. Well, that's the American people. So we've been broiled almost to death. We're really close right now. But frogs are jumping out of that water every day.
Right. Woohoo.
Yes, absolutely. So now we fast forward to, and there's a lot of things that happened, all the wars, and even the Civil War was a fake war. It was a generated war where the bad guys are whispering in the ears of the southern states and the bad guys are whispering in the ears of the northern states, and they're getting this conflict to start.
Mm.
World War I, World War II, etc. All of them.
Oh, Sandy, this
Because
is horrible because all these men and women have died at the hand of these selfish, demonic people.
they fund both sides of every war.
Mm.
So they always win, the bankers, the banksters,
Right.
always. So the one thing I left out in the 1871 Act, when they refinanced the loans, It was a deal with the devil, essentially, the Bank of London and the Vatican. And so the Bank of London became the CFO of the corporate, United States Incorporated, and the Vatican became the CEO, essentially, in charge of everything. And Washington, D.C. Incorporated became the military arm. So if you've ever wondered why we've been in so many useless wars, because we weren't in charge. So Federal Reserve, not an American entity, not US Federal Reserve, not nothing. It's owned by the bankers across overseas. And they just take our tax money and just put it in their pockets like they have for over 100 years.
My God.
So now let's fast forward to the 2000s. Patriots just like us going, what in the world is happening in our country? They start realizing, reading the Constitution and whatever, that we lost our republic probably in 1871.
Yeah.
Well, where is it? So they researched all the documents. Was it ever deleted? Was it ever trashed? They don't think it ever was. And so literally Lincoln had taken all the people from the republic, picked them up and put them in new chairs over in the corporation with the same names. So senator from Alabama, governor of Texas, governor of Texas. You know, it was like literally he just moved the entire government into a corporate structure. And then these republic seats were just sitting there gathering dust. That's kind of like an image you can kind of imagine.
Yes.
Now the Patriots come along and they research it and they realize that these are empty seats. Military comes to them and says, we need to do something, because if we don't have an actual government, because we all recognize that what we have is not, it's just a hijacked,
Right.
corporation.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't do something by April 1st of 2020, Bush Sr. signed an executive order that said that the UN gets to come in because we are an ungoverned land and do what's called suzerainty and take over as like a protectorate. And so we would have blue helmets all over the country.
My God.
The Patriots went into high gear, did all this research, figured this all out, and then just started appointing people to fill those seats to kind of hang on to them so no one could like take the chair,
Right.
They got a majority. They had the quorum that they needed to say, we have reseated this republic. And that deadline went by and they saved the country.
Mm.
So now they're all jazzed up and they go, well, we can keep doing this. Reseated almost every state at every level. And we're starting assemblies in the counties, grand juries, jural assemblies, the whole thing. It was the grand juries that spooked the snot out of Obama and Biden, who were in power as the CEO at the time. And they sent in their 3-letter agencies to infiltrate and destroy the republic. In fact, Obama even bragged about that in it was a speech at a college or something. And he said something like, the republic is dead, or the republic died today, or something.
Wow.
And what had happened was, as the culmination of this infiltration and getting them to do something they shouldn't do, and then arresting them, they just simply outright arrested the president, which was James Timothy Turner at the time. And he was teaching a constitutional class in the 90s to early 2000s. And then he was the one that was actually approached by the military to say, you got to do this by April 1st. And they did. And so he was appointed as the first president by the Convention of States. So this was like not the Convention of States that we hear about right now, but this was just a whole bunch of patriots coming together with this quorum, the representatives, the House, the Senate, the governors, everybody coming into Utah, November of 2010. And they had the big quorum that they needed in order to sign new documents that says Declaration of Sovereign Intent. And that officially restored the republic.
Wow.
So they hit the deadline for the military's request.
Mm-hmm.
And then they hit another deadline. Well, there was no deadline, but November of 2010, they were the lawful constitutional government of the United States of America because they were empty seats. And
Wow.
now they had people in them. And so now this is the real government in parallel with the corporation.
So almost like a shadow government, right? In a way.
Kind of, yeah,
Yeah.
because they had no money, no
Wow.
military, no power. They had all the authority, all the law, everything behind them.
Hmm.
They knew they were in truth the whole time and that God was helping them. They felt God's presence at that Utah meeting.
Wow.
And
Wow.
somehow it was unanimous that they signed those documents. Do you remember our founding fathers? I mean, they're having fist fights and like, pistol matches and stuff outside because of the arguments that were going on about what to do with the country.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Unanimous.
Oh my gosh.
So that then started, more documents. And so the next thing was the proclamation of claim and interest, which
Hmm.
essentially between those two documents put the entire country, its people, and its property, the land, the water, the air above, the minerals below, all of that into a trust.
Mm.
We're holding it for the American people. We have declared it. Then those documents were filed by international law as required with the United Nations, the International Court at The Hague, the
Mm.
Universal Postal Union, and the corporate Pentagon Joint Chiefs of Staff. So that's a notice. That's not an approval, like we have to get something back. No, it's like, here you go. We
Uh-huh.
declare we are now the lawful government of America.
Wow. Did they
That's the
rebut that in
requirement by
court?
law. Say that
Did they
again.
did they rebut that in
There is
any?
no such thing.
Uh-huh.
It's
Okay.
literally, here you go. And we know it was received
Okay.
because somebody in the United Nations, we think, then passed that document around to some of the members. And that got back to some of the parliaments. And they were reading our Declaration of Sovereign Intent in the parliament.
Wow.
And it got standing ovations
Mm.
because they're going, God, thank you so much for answering our prayer to get this American mafia off of our back.
Right. Oh my gosh.
Because that's
Yeah.
literally what it's been, because the so-called corporation, USA Incorporated, I call it. It's had so many names, but that's one of them.
Mm.
Was going into these countries and saying, you will do what we tell you, or we'll kill your leaders, we'll kill your families, we will have the banks revoke your loans and make them due now. We will, whatever, drop a plague on you. I mean, it's just literally, this is what our country
Gosh.
had become.
Mm.
So no wonder why the countries of the world hate our flag. The 50 stripe, the 50 stars in rows.
Yes.
And so this is what we've been having to deal with. Here I am in the military thinking I'm serving my country. I've
Mhm.
had to really come to grips with the fact that most of my career has been a lie.
Mm.
But God put me there so
Yes.
that I would get the skills that are absolutely essential right now in the restoration of our republic.
Mm.
So after the arrest of James Timothy Turner, thrown in jail, no charges, then they made up something. Food poisoned him the day before his trial. He's in the infirmary getting some help. And they go into his cell and steal all of his notes, all of his books, and everything that he was going to use for his defense the next day, because he was representing himself, as you should. He goes by memory for the 2 or 3 days, I think it was 3 days trial. And you can get a book on this. The Hurtlers also wrote a book called Kidnapped, which is the story of this exact thing for people who are like, that didn't happen. Because they go online and they look up Wiki, which is like, a CIA front group.
Right.
And they find out that he was charged and guilty of, IRS, bonds, whatever it is it says in there. Well, what they did was they put these charges in this court. He goes in, he proves his innocence of everything. Then the judge says, okay, you're guilty. And he's like, of what? He
Right.
said, here's the kicker. Talk about Orwellian.
Mm.
The potential to commit a future crime.
Oh my gosh. Really?
That's what the judge said to
Wow.
his face. So off he goes to prison.
Oh.
And then they make up the stuff that they say on Wiki that he was guilty of.
Mhm.
but he was never even tried for it. They made up those crimes after the fact,
Wow.
changed the transcripts, said he had no evidence, and then said he was guilty. They changed the evidence, they changed the transcripts.
Mm.
I swear under penalty of perjury. I mean, this means nothing to these people.
Right, right. That's why you can't believe any single thing that the news says, guys. Come on now, wake up. Or what these politicians say. I mean,
Mhm.
it's just to get what they want done, to fill their pockets, load their pockets, and wow. Mm.
So what do you think happened to the Republic after that?
Well, if gosh, if I was there back then, I would oh, they ran away.
They all ran away,
Oh, wow.
except a remnant that
Uh-huh.
kept
There's
the
always a
Republic,
remnant. Mm.
alive this whole time. So Obama and Biden thought that they had cut off the head and therefore it was going to die. That's not how a true constitutional republic works. Yes, they have a leader, but it's by the people for the people. It was
Right.
the people. So
Yes.
as long as there were some people left, there was still a government. So what happened was in the line of succession, president has now been kidnapped essentially. So vice president was one of the infiltrators. And then House Speaker, all the where it goes, if there's like a nuclear bomb or something goes off, and then who takes over. And so it got down to the Senate President Pro Tem, which was James Buchanan Geiger. And so he stepped in as the acting president. And then they still had enough states to have an election.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was actually elected as the president of the republic, whereas Tim was appointed. And so it was because they were eventually going to have an election as soon as they had all the people that they needed and all that. They didn't think they were in a hurry until
Right.
all this started to happen.
Mm.
So that remnant remained and tried so hard 2013, 2014, all the way up to 2020, 2021. Message just couldn't get out. They would get one or two Z kind of people, like I would talk to you on the street or a friend or a cousin or whatever, and we would have this conversation. And, ooh, that sounds great. And you'd sign up. And that was the kind of folks we were getting. So at that time, we had like 9 or 10 states with some representation still, available. And then the Trump trial this year,
Mhm.
May, the verdict comes out. Something happened. And suddenly our message started to get out.
Wow.
So now I'm outreach coordinator. I'm doing the podcasts and the videos, and I was going, God, I'm doing what you're telling me to do. The message is not getting out. And we're getting shadow banned, we're getting deleted, we're losing our YouTube channel, all this, same stuff.
Yep, been there.
But now May and June, suddenly the messages start to get out. Podcasters start carrying our story. And the people start signing up. We start filling the governor's seats because of course we got to get that going. Once you get a governor, then they can start all the volunteers that are coming up for that state, then they can say, okay, this is where we need to put you and all that. To just so it sounds like it's a top-down organization, but it really started as a bottom-up organization, at the state level, counties and states coming up, having their representatives, and then voting for a president. But now it's like we're trying to rebuild, so it kind of looks like it's top down, but it's still not. It's still by the people. And so filling the empty seats as fast as we can, because again, we're trying to save the chairs so someone can't steal it.
Right.
So we've gone from having like 9 or 10 states with some representation to the point now where we have only 5 states with no representation.
Really? Wow. Are you
In
able
what,
to
2
say
months?
what states they are?
It changes daily.
Okay.
Matter of fact. I checked this morning and it was 5.
Okay.
If I
Wow.
remember, and I'm probably going to get it wrong because yesterday it was different. Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Mississippi, Oklahoma. One more, I don't remember. But you got it. It's like it's a little. Oh, West Virginia, maybe. I think
Okay.
that's
Okay.
right. So. And remember, our founding fathers anticipate or expected the ordinary dude or dudette to be in these positions?
Yes.
How were they selected? Well, let's think back. Okay, we think about the old Westerns or Little House on the Prairie, and they had a crisis. What did they do? Well, there was one building in town where they could all meet, the church. So
Yeah.
they went to the church. They're all in there. They're all sweating their butts off because there's no air conditioning. And they're going, okay, well, it's time to pick our representatives to go to the county. Whose turn is it? And they're all going, Joe, it's your turn. No, no, no. Joe doesn't want to do it. No, no. Joe, we really need you. I mean, Mike did it last year and Bob did it before that. It's your turn. Dang. All right, I'll do it. And that's how it went. Joe's a farmer. Bob's
Right.
the store owner. I mean, it's like, these are just ordinary people. And so when I get the volunteers contacting me now and they go, well, I don't have any experience. I'm like, awesome, because we don't want any. Because that means that you've been corrupted by the system. In fact, we highly, highly do not like to have anyone who's ever served in the corporation at any level, because we don't know what their status is. We don't know how much they've been corrupted or turned or, whatever.
Sure.
So ordinary people stepping up and
That's
filling these
awesome.
seats. So when you take, like, for example, you're just ordinary person, whatever your job is, and you say, all right, I'll do it because I think God's calling me to. Well, the good news is that when you're the governor, you manage all the new volunteers. So you're recruiting for your replacement.
That's awesome.
And I've done it. I was like, Joe and Bob. And Joe goes, I don't want this job. But Bob walks in and goes, well, I own a business. I'm a project manager and I'd be happy to take the governor position.
Yeah, there you
And
go.
it's
That's
done.
awesome. Yeah.
Bob's now the governor and Joe takes on senator or secretary of state or something because that's more fitting for Joe. He said, oh, thank God. I'm so much more comfortable in this position. And we're perfectly fine with that. So we can get you through the process and then you can change. So the only thing that's going to happen when everything happens, and so maybe that might be your next question, but we'll finish this thought first.
Sure.
Um, we are interim, we are seat holders, we are saving the republic. Like I said, kind of like a trust, where it's like, okay, American people, here it is. Do you want it? All you have to do is get involved.
Yes.
So that's the bottom line of where we're at right now. So you want to ask the next question?
Yeah. So where does Trump come in with all this? Because he mentions consistently about the Republic.
Mm-hmm. So there's two parts to this. So the first part is he absolutely knows about us.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, he reached out to President Geiger in 2016 when Trump was running for office. And essentially the president said, it's too risky. Don't be associated with us. We're fine. You
Mm-hmm.
go get elected. And so we occasionally will get information messages, unofficially from either his staff or military folks or something, just kind of like checking in. But he knows that in this plan, there has to be a republic, a civil authority. Has to be. Because the military will not act without a lawful civil authority.
Yes.
Now they know about the republic. They talked to us back in 2009-10 timeframe to get us to save it from the UN invasion.
Mm-hmm.
So good guys and bad guys, of course, in the military.
Right.
And but Trump was seeing how the republic couldn't get recruiting and was barely hanging on in the 2017-ish, 18-ish timeframe. So he did what any businessman would do, which is created a second republic. Plan B.
Uh-huh.
So if something happened to us,
Mm-hmm.
he had another one to fall back on.
Oh,
So
wow.
people will say, well, Trump's got his own republic. Well, yeah, we know. But there's something called first in time, first in law, first
Right.
in line.
Mm-hmm.
Ours is 2010 2012 when we filed our paperwork. His is 2017, 2018, or 19, whenever it was that he did it. I don't remember the date now. But that's a backup plan. Because if something happens to us or we don't, pull through somehow, he's got another plan. That's the way we comprehend what's going on. How does Trump fit in? So, of course, he got elected in 2016, got elected in 2020, but we know what happened there.
Right.
So what could happen between now and, so the pivot point's the election date. Okay, so right now, November 5th is the corporate USA Incorporated voting day. Because who's in charge right now? So we either have something happen before that date or after that date. And let me explain how I think it'll probably work. These are probably the main options. This is Sandy putting on her military hat and kind of assessing the situation. So we are feeling this, you use Star Wars, a tremor in the force, right?
Yes.
Something big is about to happen. Man, we can feel it.
I just got the Holy Ghost goosebumps.
It's like goosebumps. I know. And like the hairs on your neck, everything is just
Right.
like,
You can feel
we're
it. Yeah.
watching the stock market implode in just the
Right.
last few days around the world. And countries are selling their United States bonds and
Yeah.
dumping the dollar as fast as possible. Saudi Arabia in January not signing the new treaty for the petrodollar. And
Right.
well, how much more can this thing take? The corporation is failing. Like, it's not even like sliding down the hill. It's in free fall now. How much longer can it last? And this is what I think we're all picking up on. We are too in the Republic. We can feel it. It's palpable.
Yes.
And so the thought here is the corporation either fails on its own, like just completely just
Implodes.
or the military helps it.
And
that happens before the election in November. And so this is what I call option one. So then what happens? Well, the number one mandate of the Republic, the interim people, me and all the others that are holding the chairs, we don't get to stay. We don't want to stay. I don't want this job. I'm doing it because God told me to. And this is President Geiger who wants to be a grandfather. We're all just, doing what we're being asked to do. So, sorry, let me wind back. So the election. So our number one mandate is to hold free and fair elections within 120 days of the Republic being restored. If the corporation fails on its own, or the military speeds it along, and then the military has to come in and clean up the mess,
yeah,
they're going to call us and say, you're on.
Wow.
You have now just been restored. And so now we come in and we are the president, the governors, the secretaries of state, the county clerks, all the way down. And so the military now deals with us as the lawful civil authority. Now they're mostly in charge, but they're not going to be doing anything without coming to me as the interim governor of Texas and saying, we need to do this thing in Austin, Texas. We just need your approval. And I say, yes, of course, because I'm not going to say no, because they're trying to clean it up, right?
Right.
So hopefully, there's like options. Oh, well, we have this problem. We have these two options. We recommend option one. What do you say? Well, of course, we're going to say option one. We just need to be, I don't want to say rubber stamp, but you know what I'm trying to say here.
Sure.
They will not doing anything without that, because if they do, it's a military coup.
Yeah.
And they've just violated their oaths to the Constitution, and they will never do that.
Correct.
So that's where we're at. That's option one. I call it A and B. Corporation goes on its own, military forces it to happen, A and B. Option two, somehow the corporation makes it all the way to election day. I don't think any of us would put money on that right now in Las Vegas. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But we get there. And there's an election, corporate election. And so Trump, of course, being on the ticket, And I don't know who's going to be on for the other so-called parties. It's all one party. I mean, we know they're
Yeah,
all corrupt. It's
right,
all a show. We're going to pretend to be on two different sides, but really behind the scenes, we're just going to work together.
right.
And they all have blackmail on each other. So, whatever. And so Trump has to win.
Yeah,
That I don't think there's any possible way the bad guys could cheat that much again.
right.
All right. Well, he just got elected in as the CEO of the corporation again.
Right, right. Yeah.
So,
Mm.
what do you think he's going to do first when he takes office on January 20th of 2025? Oh, bankrupt the corporation and get rid of it.
Yes.
So by February, we should have no fake government in those seats. Same plan. Military moves in. Trump's out of a job because he just bankrupted his own company.
Mm-hmm.
And now the military is in. We need a lawful civil authority. The Republic is called up again. And it's the exact same plan, except now we have the 120 days from that time. So we go February, March, April. So like maybe Memorial Day-ish, we
Mm-hmm.
might be having an election. Who do you think is going to win that one? But now it's President of the Republic.
Yes. Wow.
And all the senators and the House of Representatives and everything are now for the Republic.
Yes. Wow, that's huge.
So long kind of a question, but it also brings in all the different pieces
Mm-hmm.
of the plan and the mandates on the Republic once we are restored.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think you had asked me a question about state nationals and
Yes.
correcting your status, and this
Yes.
actually plays into this. So a couple years ago, me, Sandy, was saying, I recommend everyone correct their status. So what is this? Well, this is this birth certificate fraud that we've all been suckered into
Mm-hmm.
since the early 1900s. That we have to have this document that proves that we were actually born wherever. Well, that's a nice idea in general. Before that, it was just the family Bible signed by the priest.
Exactly.
That was enough. Or the little piece of paper from the priest. And that's in the family Bible, right? As one of the pages.
Yes.
So when they created this certificate of live birth, that's usually what it says across the top. And it's got the little boxes, the name of the baby, the day was the time, the mom and the dad, how old were they, and all the doctor's information, all that, right? And then you get that in the mail usually after a couple of days. Well, then the fraud comes in because this was where the Federal Reserve turned well, it was actually the 14th Amendment that kind of did it, but
Huh.
all of this all put together made every living man and woman a debt slave to the United States Incorporation. What does that mean? Well, that means that you don't own anything and you're not happy.
Right.
And you have no idea.
Right.
Because what did you do when you got married? You got a marriage license.
Mm-hmm.
There was never such thing before. It was just the family Bible and little pieces of paper under
Right.
God, right? God was your license.
Yes.
So now you have just been sold into slavery to the state, incorporated. And so now your children are automatically slaves.
Mm-hmm.
Their children are automatically slaves. So when we say correcting your status, we're talking about this fraudulent birth certificate that's behind the certificate of live birth that we all have. And I know because I've got both of them. I forced Chicago to cough it up. I went there in person and I'm like in their faces and going, I'm not leaving. Give me both. They knew I was dead serious because I was talking the language and they knew. So eventually I've got both now. But anyway, the all capital letters name. So my name in all capital letters is a corporation. Anything as a corporation is in all capital letters. Now, it might not look that way on the everyday thing, but when you are looking at formal documents, it is. And I'll challenge everyone out there listening to me right now go look at your driver's license,
Mhm.
registration, mortgage, car loan,
I mean, even
credit
this little
cards,
mortgage,
checks,
mortgage,
all of it, all capital.
right. Yeah,
Court cases, all capital.
you're right.
That's the dead entity, corporation. And we go, well, it's got my same name on it. No, it's not upper and lower case. But they've tricked us all into thinking that we are responsible for that all capital letter name because it's the same general letters. IRS,
Yes,
all over there.
yes,
This
right.
has nothing to do with a living human being.
Mm,
This is what we call correcting your status. Because we've all been tricked into thinking that they're one and the same thing and we have to do everything to, manage this. Well, in a correcting of your status, you say, nope, living man and woman and the corporate, the corporate entity. We call it a straw man. And so years ago, we would have said it's time, everyone should split their, because we don't know when are we going to get rid of the corporation? When are we going to, get back to normal, being just living men and women? Now, we don't have time. We just talked about this tremor in the force thing, that we're all feeling. And the beautiful thing about it is that instead of focusing on me, and
mhm.
my status, if you devote your attention to the entire republic, when it's restored, instantly everyone's status is corrected
Yes, that's awesome. Wow.
because it's a contract with the
Mhm.
corporation. Oh, where'd the corporation go?
Bye-bye.
There's no half, the other half of the contract is gone.
Right.
So that's why currently we don't recommend anyone try to do state, national, state citizen, any of that stuff.
Mhm.
We do highly recommend that you go for assemblies, state assemblies, county assemblies. Actually, county assemblies form the state assemblies. Now, there's some good ones and some bad ones out there.
Mhm.
So, and I can give you a link, to where I would say the good one is the
Okay.
best one. And that's the one we're actually working with in the Republic, because that's how the Republic started, was at the people assembly county level,
Right.
building up to get to the Senate, the House, the governor, and the president. It was just, we're
Exactly.
going the other way because we, got
Sure.
broken.
Right.
So that's the story behind correcting your status and why we're not focusing on it right now.
Yeah, so we need to focus on those that want to come in and volunteer and be a part right now. So how do they do that? How can they be a part of this transition?
So the easiest way is to sign up as an elector. A
Okay.
voter is a slave. So we have to
Right.
now change our vocabulary. It's the whole thing behind lawful
Mhm.
versus legal.
Right.
Lawful, human beings, people, men and women. Legal, attorney, bar attorney, maritime law, corporate law. We've been
Exactly.
tricked into being over here.
Right.
That's part of this birth certificate thing. That's the all capital letters name. That's the corporate maritime type jurisdiction, bar attorney.
Right.
There's actually a missing 13th Amendment in the Constitution,
Hmm.
got just deleted for no reason. Well, we know what the reason is, because they couldn't have it. The bad guys couldn't have it because it was the absolutely essential amendment that said the penalty for if you took a title of nobility
Mm-hmm.
or some sort of gift from a prince or principality or whatever. Because the Constitution says thou shalt not have any titles of nobility and no penalty. So what do you do when someone takes a title of nobility? Well, they didn't know. So this was the infiltration that was happening in the early 1800s, and somewhere I think it was 1811, I believe, was this proposed 13th Amendment, and it started to fly like the wind through the states, approving it. Yes, 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 because they knew it was a big problem. Because who puts Esquire at the end of their name? Hmm.
Mm.
That's a title of nobility
Right.
because bar is British Accreditation Registry.
Exactly.
Whether
So
they knew it or not, they took an oath to Great Britain
right,
and the
exactly.
Queen. Well,
Right.
King, well, whatever he is now.
Yeah.
We don't know. Demon.
Dead, alive, whatever.
Yeah, whether he's alive, exactly.
I
Who's
know.
which
You can't
who's
make
wearing the
it
mask
so fun.
today? I mean,
I know, right? You can't make okay, so you have a great joke too. Because we're talking
oh,
about masks, who's wearing the mask and Biden growing six
right,
inches, and stuff like
right.
that.
Yeah, if you've ever, the people that are called conspiracy theorists are just misnamed.
Right.
They
Okay.
need to have the name pay attentionists because that's really it. If you look at pictures of Biden from the Biden or the Obama Biden days, he's like, I don't know, maybe this tall.
Right.
Then this new guy shows up in the 2020 election and gets elected,
Uh-huh.
supposedly, and he's this tall, and
Right.
his ears are different.
Right.
The nose is different. And you look at him and you go, that
Hmm.
might be like a younger brother, but it's not the same guy. Well, now this guy who's been, I call him diaper boy, the one that's going all around and embarrassing the hell out of the United States all over the world,
Right.
disappears. And now we got new Biden, 6 inches taller than the other one. Closer to the original, but I'm just saying.
You can't
It's
make it.
called pay attentionists. We're
Right.
not conspiracy theorists. We are pay attentionists.
All right.
So there's a joke that's what is the difference between conspiracy theory and fact? About 6 months.
That's the truth.
Isn't it though? I mean, I was a conspiracy theorist at the Air Force Academy because I said, yeah, the shots contain graphene oxide,
Right.
heavy metals, probably parasites. There's like no um, quality control. It could have anything in it. It could have, mouse poop and you're injecting it into your body. Go for it.
Exactly. Oh
I'm
man.
not doing it. It's not even approved. It's experimental.
Mm.
Oh, you're just, you're not working for the FDA. Please go take it. Please. I'm begging you, go take the shots. Because then we don't have to worry about you anymore. I'm sorry. This is being a little evil now, but it's just, you can only help people so much. But
Right.
the Bible's very clear. Only about a third of us make it through.
Yeah. Wow.
So not everyone makes it.
Nope. But
And they're self-selecting right now.
yes,
It's
there's so
unfortunate.
mm,
It bothered me so bad at the beginning of all of this.
mhm,
How come I can't convince them? How come I can't help them? How come I can't save them?
right.
And then I went, well, okay, Revelation says not everybody makes it. I'm okay now. It's like, I'm going to save as many as I can. I'm going
That's
to tell
right.
them the truth. They either hear the truth or they don't. And I'm done after that. I
You're
have
just
told
the
them
messenger.
I'm
Right.
just the messenger. That's right. They decide.
Mm,
So,
exactly. Exactly. But we're in critical times right now, and I just urge those that have listened to this broadcast, and I know that your mind is blown. But if you go to the website links that I have below, I'll tell you, it would just broaden your whole perspective on how this is all working together and how it needs to come to fruition like right now because the time is slipping away. I mean, time is going by so fast.
August,
Yes,
how did we make
yes,
it this far?
right. By the grace of God. Hallelujah.
It's on his plan. I'm telling you. It's like, why were we infiltrated in the 2012 to 2013 timeframe? Well, we were growing so fast that we were off plan.
Mm,
The plan is now. It
yes.
wasn't back then. But I'll tell
I
you
get
what, those infiltrators used every trick. And now we see them coming back and we go,
hmm
we remember this from
right.
the old days. Out.
Exactly.
So that was our training for now, I think. It's unfortunate that people were hurt and families were broken up and the rest of that because of the prison. People went to prison for no reason.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
Um, but it's even Tim Turner, the guy that was in jail for over 10 years, just got out finally under the CARES Act last April, so a year ago, for health reasons. And so he's got, we call it his jewelry on his ankle. Um,
Oh,
and that's so he can be under house arrest. He's, monitored everywhere he goes, kind of thing. And we're working on getting that taken care of.
good, good.
So,
I
but
believe
even
you
he
will.
says, I felt God the entire time I was there.
Wow.
They were hoping that he would get killed in prison. So they put him in maximum security terrorists, Muslim extremists, whatever. Ended up converting a lot of them, the guards, other prisoners to Christianity.
Oh, praise God. Wow. Mm,
So he knows he knows that he had to go do that. He doesn't like say, "Oh, poor me, why did that happen?" No,
right. It's for
very
the bigger
noble, honorable
picture.
man. Hmm.
Yeah.
He's now
I
the
mean,
attorney general, by the way. I'm like, that's
oh,
the perfect
see?
job.
There you go. I mean, even your journey, this whole thing
Mhm.
of, going into the Air Force and just helping those, men and women, the youth there that go into the academy. Actually, we just toured the academy a couple weeks ago because a lot of our children live in Colorado.
Mhm.
And but I'd like to hook up with the governor there in Colorado because I know that several people that would really like to get involved. And so
Well,
yeah.
I know he still needs a lot of county representatives. So
Okay.
hopefully they're scattered all around because,
Yeah.
of course, the big populations like El Paso County, Colorado Springs
Yes.
has folks already, but and he's down in the Durango area, so
Oh,
the
yeah.
southwest corner.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
so that's what we need the most in every county.
Absolutely.
God gave me Texas.
So he brought you out of Colorado to Texas.
Uh-huh. A nice small state
Yeah, real small.
on top of being outreach coordinator, volunteer coordinator, and everything else that I'm doing. So yeah, only 254 little counties.
Oh my word.
So I need a county clerk and a county judge minimum in each of those. So 508 people.
Wow.
I've
Well,
got maybe 20 of the counties that have started. I mean, I had zero.
okay. Wow.
I had zero when this whole thing broke with the Trump trial and then the podcasts and then all the volunteers coming in, and they're just coming in more per day.
Awesome.
So it's just a matter of making the time to
Yeah.
contact. I'm so sorry for anyone who's ever reached out, and I haven't reached out back yet. I promise I will. I'm sorry.
Uh, well, God knew that you could handle this task because of,
He
again,
trained me.
journey. Yeah.
He
Hmm.
trained me. Yeah.
Absolutely. So what are the sites that they can go to and start educating themselves and to sign up to volunteer?
So we have two websites right now, basically because we have the old website and then the new one that we had started working on just as all this started to happen. So we're trying to move everything over. So I'm sorry that we're kind of like split up right now. The main old website where all the documents are, the Declaration of Sovereign Intent, the Proclamation of Claim and Interest, the old radio shows, all that stuff is all on long website. Here we go. Republic for the United States of America.org. Now we all know we should be .gov, but if we did that, we'd all be arrested. Just saying.
All right.
So eventually we should have .gov, but right now it's .org. So Republic for the United States of America, all the way across .org. I know we have to shorten it. We've got some shorter ones, but that's what we got so far. That's the main older website. The new website, which is where we tell people is a better place to sign up, is the exact same name, but put members dot in the front. And then
Okay.
you'll see a register button. That's where you go register to be an elector. And if everyone listened to this, just do that.
Yeah.
Because we need to get to like 30,000 people in each state
Okay.
for critical mass.
Yeah.
Times 50 states, like 1.5 million people. If we got to 1 million total people in the country, I think the military would go, they're ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
We
Absolutely.
don't have to get to the 30,000. The 30,000 authorizes the state to hold elections if they wish.
Hmm.
I don't think any of the states are going to want to do that because it's like trying to correct your status. It's just like there's
Yeah.
not enough time.
Yeah.
Something's going to happen here in the next few months. We
Yeah.
maybe no, but boy, it sure feels like it, you
Well,
know?
it really does. I mean, look at just what happened today with Chameleon's, VP pick. I mean, horrendous. So I'm sure that there's a lot of people, especially a lot of Jewish people out there that just got woken up to say, oh boy, better do something. I live
Mhm.
here. Right?
Yep. Yep.
So,
So
woo, exciting times, that's for sure.
so that's where you can become an elector. That's the minimum thing. And then there's going to be some questions where it says, are you volunteering to fill an open seat?
Hmm.
If you're like, I'm not sure, say yes, because that automatically generates an email to your interim governor.
Hmm.
And now you can have a conversation. And then you can say, I changed my mind. Thank you. Or, oh my God, sign me up for 3 positions.
Right.
Whatever it is that comes out of that conversation. But at least it generates the conversation. So you can actually talk. Because, like I said, most of the big positions that you would think would take up a lot of time are filled because of
Yeah.
all these new volunteers coming in. So we really need the county levels. And you're like, I can do that. I could, I just live in my county and I just, organize the elections and I got lots of helpers. I got friends that can help and,
Sure.
that's not that big of a deal. And you're going to have help. The military is absolutely not going to just drop us and say, okay, you're on your own. So they're
Right.
going to be sending us helpers, National Guard, whatever, experts. So, um, but when the Republic is restored and then we have to hold these elections, you think people are going to be awake? They're going
Yeah.
to say, who's our county clerk? I want to help with the elections. I want to make sure that they're actually fair and, free and fair elections and lawful this time.
Yeah,
So yeah,
absolutely.
the first Republic election since 1860.
My
And
God.
that's really where the Republic is kind of reverting back to
Hmm.
because everything after that date is unlawful.
Right.
Because bar attorneys started coming in who can't even be US citizens by the missing 13th Amendment. And they can never hold office. I'm going to sneeze. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Woo.
Goodness gracious.
Ah,
I'm allergic to bar attorneys.
I think we all are. True. Oh my goodness.
So that's the future that the Republic is bringing to the American people.
Mm,
Do you and I agree 100% that we're doing it exactly the way you would do it? Probably not. Are we 95% there? I would give a good yes to that. Can we argue about that 5% after we restore
yeah.
the Republic? Yes. We got committees, we've got debates, we've got special news, whatever, conventions and all. Let's work it out later.
Yes, absolutely.
This republic is arriving in your hands right now, already, I can't say restored, reseated,
Yeah. Ready to
like plug and play,
go.
to use our own terminology these days.
Yes, yes. They're
All
biting
you
at
have
the
to do
bit,
is
ready
sign up.
to go. Yeah.
There's like, and then put in some work, a
Mhm.
little bit to help your county at the county level. Everything else has been done. There's no, oh, we got to save the republic. It's saved.
Yeah, praise
Join
God.
us.
Yeah.
That's what we need right now.
Amen. Well, it's time that we the people stand up and end this tyranny, join together for the republic. Praise God. Wow, Sandy, I want to thank you so much for being with us today on Upfront and the Prophetic. And you mentioned several other things that, I'd love to just unpack on another broadcast. So we'd love to have you back on.
Well, I would love to be back on. I think at this time, because of the influx of the volunteers, I probably should focus there
Sure.
because I think that's where God wants me to focus my energy is refilling his republic such that the military goes, okay, that's ready. We're ready. Let's do it.
Yeah.
So we just keep praying. Everyone, please keep praying for that the republic get the people it needs, the volunteers. You
Mm.
don't have to be an expert in anything. We will teach you, train you, whatever you need to do. Don't worry about it. Watch out for infiltrators. I mean, this is just the whole thing, right? And we'll
Sermon.
save the country together.
Yes, absolutely. Wow. Power packed broadcast today. Again, retired U.S. Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Sandy Miarecki. I hope I said Miarecki. Is that Miarecki?
Got
PhD.
it. You got it.
Okay. Hey, all right.
It's Polish, but of course it's said completely different in that country.
Is it really? How would they say it that there?
Miarecki.
Oh,
Yeah, so
okay.
it sounds a little more Russian because of the Slavic. Yeah.
Yes,
Mhm.
it does. Beautiful. Well,
Mhm.
awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you for listening in. Now it's time to take action. So head on over to those websites and let's join the cause. Woo, it's time.
Mhm.
Awesome. God bless you, everyone. God bless you, Sandy. So
Thank you.
appreciate you and everything you're doing. Bye bye, everyone.